Hey, good morning, Robert. How are you
Good
today?
morning. I'm doing great. Yourself?
Oh my gosh, get me up to date because I know we've got something really big to announce today to all of our subscribers.
Sure. We are pretty much close to being done with Past But Present season one. People have had the opportunity to pre-order the season and watch it and give us feedback. And we're going to officially launch it on December 10th. And the reason we picked December 10th to launch it on pastbutpresent.com is because you will be doing a demonstration of your evidential mediumship
Yep.
for one of my other projects, fundraisers. We're going to be doing a series of events all through late November through December to gain support to make this movie called Evidence of the Afterlife. And it's a document.
Evidence of the afterlife. I'm sorry, I had to hear that again. Evidence of the afterlife. I like that.
Well, because it's a documentary about evidential mediumship. So, and
Mm.
I produced it, I filmed it, directed it. It's going to be a documentary about evidential mediumship, no fancy bells and whistles. It's going to tell the story of Philip Dykes and Karen MacLeod, who are from England and Scotland. I better not mess that up because Carrie will kill me. Um, but I've been following them around for well, to be honest, since 2019 at the We Don't Die conference in Orlando. That's when I first heard of them, and really the first time I was exposed to evidential mediumship. And as a previously skeptical person, it was a life-changing event, and hanging around with them and you and other evidential mediums that I know, it's really um, improved my life. And and I hear people say this, and I truly believe this, that I think everybody has the potential to be a medium or receive
Hmm.
messages or clairvoyant images. Because the very first day I was exposed to Phil and Carrie, I was in their class, and I hadn't intended on filming their class. But Sandra Champlain said, "Why don't you go take part in the class?" And I sat down and we did a sitting in the power meditation for 10
Oh.
minutes, and we paired off with strangers in the class, and we gave our best attempt to read them. And
Hmm.
I definitely had an experience that is unbelievable, like hard to describe.
Why do you
And
think you had an experience when you were such a non-believer? What do you think was the turning point with that?
I think it will a lot of the instruction by Phil and Carrie, they're
Mm.
great tutors. So in just a half an hour, they had me sitting in front of a stranger and actually receiving information just by explaining that how to go into the power, how to sit in the power. And if you don't know, for people that don't know what sitting in the power means, it's meditation. And I've never really done meditation before. So it was, we he Philip had this moment where he said, we close our eyes and you imagine this white light going through, and really soft talking, really puts you into the zone. And the key was to kind of clear out all that noise in your head and your thoughts and really go into this place of silence. And during that, I was seeing all kinds of images, like really like as if I was dreaming. Um,
Wow.
I was awake. So I explained that to Phil, and he said, "Oh, that's clairvoyance." And
And what is clairvoyance? Just for anyone that doesn't understand what that means.
well, to me, it's being able to see in my mind detailed images, like colors, places, almost like photographs, but in my mind when my eyes close.
Exactly. And I'm just going to jump in there.
Yeah.
Clairvoyance. Clair stand is a French word for clear, and voyance is seeing.
Mhm.
So it's clear seeing, but it's within yourself. So for those that are evidential mediums, we don't see people outside of us. We are going to be seeing it within, like you just mentioned, like a dream. And for anybody that's listening that they're not sure, like, oh, I think I am clairvoyant, or am I not, is just recall what you had for dinner last night. And as you go through whatever the food is, or the drink, or the dessert, are you seeing color? Are you seeing it? Did you smell it? Did you taste it? Or do you just have a sense of knowing? Or did you hear the food? And I know you're like, what do you mean hear it? Well, it could be The fact that somebody's cutting up the onions, or maybe they are frying the meat. So sorry to jump in on that, but I just want to kind of add a little bit of definition to what the
Yeah.
clairs are. The clairvoyant,
Mhm.
clairaudient is hearing, clairsentient is sensing.
I just always have had a good imagination and wildly vivid dreams. So I just figured, that was in my imagination. But when I sat down with this partner, I cleared my head and I just thought about nothing, and then an image popped in my head of Italy. And I said, "Does Italy mean anything to you?" And she said, "My son's going to Italy on Monday." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's where did that come from?" And then later on, it was an image of a microphone popped into my head, and I said the I started to, because of Phil's and Carrie's like training, I started to, instead of say, ask a question, just say it, like let it kind of flow through you.
Exactly.
So I said, you want to be a presenter. So I took the image of the microphone that I was seeing, which was like a condenser microphone, like one of those radio microphones. But instead of saying like I see a microphone in my head, I said, you want to be a presenter, you want to be a speaker. And she said, yes. And I kept getting yeses. So that's part of their training is if you get this image, like you can get a lot of information out of that one image, and you can go through that, and then you'll keep getting more and more information based on that first image and that connection. You got to trust that that's coming from the communicator. um, but then I actually started to feel senses, like my stomach was feeling weird, and I
So
I
that's
could.
clairsentient because you were sensing it now. So beautiful.
Yeah, and then I saw the woman's daughter in my mind, and I asked if she had. I didn't ask if she had a daughter in the spirit world. I just said, was she an adult when she passed? And she said yes, and she started crying. I started to cry, and we had
Oh,
quite a moment. And this is Lisa. I don't think she minds me telling that story. Our good friend Lisa, who is
yes.
one of our producers on the show, and guess what? We just went to Barlow, Netherlands, and
Yes.
Lisa gave, 'cause Lisa works with Sonia Rinaldi as her like executive assistant or
Yeah.
director.
If any of you don't know who Lisa is, please, she's a magnificent presenter. She is Sonia's left arm, right arm, and maybe both of her feet. So she is definitely a part of Sonia Rinaldi's work.
So all these years later, Lisa gave this big presentation in front of 120 people at
Mm.
Barlow. So that was validated years later for me. So it was just a crazy first experience into evidential mediumship. And I was so intrigued and fascinated by it that I decided I wanted to do these films about, mediumship. So here we are, almost done with Phil and Carrie's documentary, Evidence of the Afterlife, which I think will be done pretty soon, but it probably won't be released until next year. I'm going to try to do some film
And
festival.
next year is 2024. Is that what?
Yeah, but maybe even 25. We'll see.
Now,
Because
before you finish with Phil and Carrie, your very first film that you did regarding mediumship and also the afterlife, I'm going to say, was with Sonia Rinaldi, correct? Or was there something
hmm?
different?
Nope. Rinaldi is a movie that you can find on Amazon Prime right now. It's called Rinaldi Instrumental Transcommunication to the Other Side. And it's all about speaking or getting communication with spirit from electronic devices, whether it's audio or visual. So she has these different methods that she uses with devices to get these images. And I went and spent a week with her in Brazil filming her process, and I went all over the United States talking to families and moms that have been, with Sonia and getting messages, and whether it's over Zoom or in person or at a workshop, and getting their stories and how they got to meet Sonia and
And that's
have
how
some.
you and I came together. That's a
Yep, got
story
all
for
tied
another
together.
time. But yeah, you were filming the Rinaldi documentary when you and I had an opportunity to spend some time together, and that's what exploded the concept of past but present. That
Yes.
is a magnificent story of the innocence of the spirit world literally grabbing my hands and pulling, and then myself grabbing your hands. And then we created almost like a human chain with Bebe and with Lisa. And this beautiful afternoon created an experience that is really, we couldn't hold within ourselves. It had to be shared with the public. And with your thoughts of how this could be brought out to everybody, is that we started filming the following day and experiencing the spirit world, how they wanted to share their story. And the past but present. How did we come up with that name? Because I know I was all over the board with different names.
I believe Lisa came up with that name.
You know what? I think you're right. I think
Yep.
you're right. We had so many different names, but past, meaning that they've passed, it's in the past, history, and then the present. So when I connect with the spirit world, they may have only been passed for a couple hours, or they could have been passed for hundreds and hundreds of years. It has been such a ride and experience because, Robert, in the very beginning, if you remember, I'm very structured. I like to know when I start things, when I'm going to end, when we're going to eat, when we're going to end, where we're going to be. And I had no idea where we're going to be, other than really forming a strong trust with you and the rest of the team, that you are going to take care of me. I was going to be safe. And then the spirit world, if you can, envision that they walked this with us. So each one of the stories, each one of the episodes, as you'll watch them, they kind of change a little bit. And that wasn't done intentionally, you guys. That is how the spirit world wanted their stories to be told. So there's a lot of, oh my gosh, moments. There's a lot of tears that flow from this girl. And the tears are because I can't tell you how I feel, the emotion. As Robert was talking about the clairsentient, the feeling, it's overwhelming. It's just, so I'm excited for December 10th, 2023, for our labor of love to finally be available for everyone, all of you. And how would they be able to get this, Robert, other than getting on our website, pastbutpresent.com?
It's going to be on pastbutpresent.com unless
Okay.
the BBC picks it up before then, which we are trying to do. But we want to get this out there and make it easy for people to watch. So it'll be a streaming platform within our site. So it'll be like if you go to Netflix, but you're just going to Past But Present, and there's all 6 episodes, and you can binge watch it or watch one a week. And it'll be there forever once you get it. And we have 6 full episodes done, and we're working on the 7th, and then we're also thinking ahead to the next adventure, next season. So we're all pretty busy and running around and getting all these things done. But this is finally going to come out, and I think people will really enjoy it and find some value in it, because if someone's watching us for the first time, our show, we validate all the messages that you get through historical records, or by somebody, an expert on site that knows the stories, and they can say yes or no. And I mean, it's amazing how much validation we get out of all the people that you bring forward.
Well, with evidential mediumship, that's part of what that word evidence is that bringing through details, facts, names, dates, specifics that someone such as myself, I couldn't Google. It's going to be a lot of personalities and a lot of, the spirit world, those telling their story from their point of view. And as many of you may know, that when you read a book or you watch a movie, sometimes it's tweaked a little bit to kind of create some thrill to it, or a dimension that to sell. We're not doing that. You're going to absolutely get what is happening in the moment. But having an expert come in and share what they know, what has been proven, is going to offer that validation, that piece of like, oh my gosh, each episode, I mean, we could tear each one apart and talk about it, because there is always some really highlights about each episode. There's also some lowlights. And what I mean by that is like huge learnings of like, well, I'm not going to do that again. But I would do this all again in a second to prove that we don't die, that we survive death, and really to do no harm to those that have their story to tell, no matter how their story was, how they lived their life, no matter how horrific, horrible, or the choices they made. And they got a story that when we hear that, sometimes it allows that compassion and that empathy to come out. So that's why I'm doing this.
And we had some scary moments, frightening moments, like when we were outside of this hospital that it used to be a hospital, but now it's in
Oh,
a
yes.
building in Colorado. And we were there at night, which probably made it even more scary. They said that block was like not even the locals of the town go down in that area because it's haunted. But you got some major vibes from there, like really horrible like stories.
Yeah, we were in Salida, Colorado, which is just a beautiful town. It's very eclectic. It's a rafting town, is what they've made it into now. But 150 years ago, it was a place where the railroads stopped as they came through the mountains, so that there's a huge building there that they would work on the trains that had been damaged or needed any sort of refurbishing from going through the mountains and the snow, which there is an episode, you guys, that talk about scary. And I don't mean scary like I'm worried that I'm in a harm. It was scary in the fact that I felt like I was electric the entire time we were inside of this um, train. What was the name of that? Train depot.
Yeah, it was a train depot. I don't know if there was a proper name for that building, but yeah, train depot.
It's abandoned, you guys. And wow, did the men that worked in that facility, that building, they had stories to tell. So I think that's that. I don't know if that's episode 2 or 3. I
That
should
would
know
be
this.
three. That'd be three. And then you kept saying because we're we were trespassing on that property, and I was a little worried in that place for safety reasons. Like we don't know what's going to be behind door number two, and but we went in there anyways. And you kept saying that everything's going to be okay. Now, remember you were saying like they're telling me that you're safe. So what was that? Were you hearing a voice or were you sensing it? Do you remember that?
Gosh, thanks for bringing me back to that. So this building, you guys, is huge. It's huge. It's pretty much the size of a football field, but take away all the seats, but it's like the field itself. And there was a door there was an entrance, and we were probably about a half a mile away from this. Let me step back before I go forward. And we're walking on an abandoned railroad track, and I get greeted by a man in the spirit world. And immediately he is like, well, come on, let's go. And so I have learned that the spirit world already knows what our plans are, what our intentions are. We have what's called free will. And so this gentleman meets me and starts telling me things about what's going on with the camp around where this railroad depot is at. And so as we get closer to it, I was excited. There wasn't a feather thought that I'm scared or that any of us were going to be hurt. And so he started reassuring me, like, we're going to be fine. And then when we got to the entrance of the door, which he brought me around the building, which I had no idea this entrance was there. And he was telling me, you're going to be fine. Come on in. Now, am I hearing that outside of me? Absolutely not. It was within me. And with my abilities is that they will usually layer them. I may see, smell, taste, hear, and feel it all at the same time. And they will let me know when something is fearful or it's scary or I'm not to go any further. But in this situation, they were welcoming to come in because they knew that there was a story to tell and that you would be able to document that and get it out to really share what had happened during that time. So that was a wonderful one. Yes.
There was one other scene that we filmed in New Orleans or outside of New Orleans along Lake Pontchartrain where we found an abandoned I had pre-researched this area so because you don't know where we're going. So to you, we're just driving out in the middle of nowhere, but I knew we were going to go to an abandoned Civil War fort in Louisiana. and that place was really creepy. I didn't know what was
You
going to be.
guys, oh my gosh, when we pulled over and I got out, immediately as I got out, I was overwhelmed with this. And it was inside of me. I felt creepy. I felt everything was dark. I felt that there's harm to be had if we kept going further. So we went to the entrance of this location, which was really cool looking. And I know they've made later find out they have made music videos there. And any of you that are interested, it was Beyonce that made, and I can't remember the name of it, but I know she did one of her music videos there, and it's so we walked in just to get a peek, and literally I was being pushed backwards instead of being pulled forward, and that I trust 100%. I knew we were to leave. In fact, even getting into the car, I felt like I wanted to go to the side of the water. It's very we're on the river, or not the lake there, and I knew I could feel death. I could feel it was very heavy. We needed to get out of there. There was nothing positive that I felt that I could share with anybody.
Yeah, if for anyone that's a fan of the HBO television program True Detective, they filmed an episode there too. Yeah, and then we continued on, and there was another Civil War fort that we went to that was bigger, a little bit more open and less scary, and we had a great theme that we filmed there. Each episode is so different from the one before it. They're all unique in their own way, and because they're unplanned. So I think the one episode that's the most consistent with itself across the whole episode is the Casadega one, because
Oh,
we were on this one property the whole time, but there were so many different stories that happened in this area that we stayed there instead of going traveling all over the city or the state. We were on this one property for the whole episode, and I thought that was really cool. That
yeah.
one's
For
good.
any of you that don't know, Casadega is a spiritualist camp in, gosh, I'm going to say, is it upper northeast Florida? And it was one of our, I call them adventures.
Mhm.
I think the rest of the team call it, shoots or places that we're going. I'm like, oh no, this is an adventure. And that's how I look at everything that we do. It's like, it's going to be fun. What am I going to learn? Who do I get to meet? Now, I know that sounds crazy. Who am I going to meet? They're in the spirit world, but wow, do they have stories. And the Casadega one, yeah, you got to watch that. It literally, yeah, you're going to have to delete all this right now because I don't even know how to put it into words. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That was,
Well, it took your breath away. And I don't want to spoil anything for the show so people can go and see it, but there is a really great reveal towards the end. And, our host knew what we were getting into, but we didn't. And we found it. So it was really, really validating. And it's amazing because it's every episode, these things happen for us. It's not like we go out to a location and we strike out and we get nothing. Like, that doesn't happen. We keep getting, great stories and validations about it every time.
well, I will, yeah, let me just kind of jump on that one there. We did have one place that I got pulled to that I really felt we needed to go to. And I'm going to be honest now, because I think maybe it was my own ego that wanted to go there. And it's in Florida, and it's a little bit outside of St. Augustine. And that was a location that was also an episode. But we went to a place that, you guys, as soon as we got there, I felt like I was in the most fake, phony world that had been created about history, and it was fake. I was like, Robert, we can't even be here.
Yep. Yeah. So that was, I guess, yeah, that was a strikeout, but it had a lot of potential. But yeah, unfortunately, some of these historic sites around the world,
Mm,
they get overcome by commercialism, and they turn it into almost like a Disney park based on the legend that happened there. So where we were, something did take place, but now it's been turned
yeah.
into a amusement park, which is really disappointing. And then
Yeah.
can't really get into the vibe when it's like that. But
No, and I almost question the fact of the location of where we were at is really honestly the location of where this was. But anyway, blah 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 blah. I don't know.
one
I
star.
just had to say that sometimes I can't work.
But So moving forward, we're going to release this again on December 10th. It's going to be made available. And that same day, you're going to be doing mediumship demonstration live. That information's at mediummovie.com because we're promoting Evidence of the Afterlife, my other project.
Mhm.
And people, for $10, you get to go to 4 different events every Sunday, starting next Sunday. So we have the
What
first
is
week.
next Sunday? What date is next Sunday?
That will be the 19th. Let me bring it
The
up on my.
19th of November.
I'll put this up on the screen too when I edit it. So
Okay.
November 19th at 4 p.m. If you're familiar with the Sunday gathering of from We Don't Die, it comes right after that. And we're going to have mediumship demonstrations by Tim Southwell, Shirley Ann Sharp, Avril Johnson Craig, and Craig Dowling. And they're from all over the world. And I've seen Tim work while I was doing a documentary on Phil and Carrie, and he's awesome. But these are their some of their top students. So they're going to be
Wow.
doing back to back to back to back demonstrations live on the first event. And Phil and Carrie will be there and talk about mediumship a little bit as well. And then the second event is December 3rd with Craig Hogan.
Oh,
And he's a really great guy, Afterlife Research and Education Institute. I interviewed him for Rinaldi. He's like a wealth of knowledge of spirit world. He's written so many books, and he's just so fascinating to just sit there and listen to him. So when I asked him if he would come on this event, he said of course, and he gave me a list of topics that he could discuss, and I was blown away just by the titles of each topic. Um, but there's going to be like some fun things to think about, like giving a mediumship demonstration over Zoom. Like who thought you could do that in the past? That you could do that, not be in the room with the person and still connect with their loved ones through, the internet, or with the phone. So we're going to talk about stuff like that, and there's going to be a Q&A so that anybody that goes to this event can chime in and ask Craig whatever they want. And then event 3 will be December 10th, and that will be you.
yay.
Um, you're going to talk a little bit about evidential mediumship, maybe, and then do a demonstration. How long do you think that will last? Like 90 minutes, maybe, or half, or an hour?
Gosh, you know what? I would like to say I can talk for at least 8 hours, but
Hmm.
connecting with the spirit world, I'll probably be with them for at least, 90 minutes. I encourage all of you that have never seen a medium work to come watch Phil and Kara's students.
We made a link called Medium Movie just because we got that URL because it's easy for anyone to share and remember mediummovie.com. If you just go there, you can sign up there. It's just a $10 donation. You get access to all 4 of these events, but really it's to help raise funds for the documentary because this is a self-funded documentary, a crowd-funded documentary. We don't have Hollywood budgets, but we have a story to tell, and we're really passionate about getting it out there, and we're going to do it no matter what. But the support helps because, the camera equipment, the flights, everything it just builds up expensive. So don't want to bore everybody with that, but that's why we're doing it, the fundraiser event. And then event 4 is the 17th of December, and that'll be Phil and Carrie. They'll be doing one of their great mediumship demonstrations, and they're just so great to watch live. And if you're in the audience and you don't get a message that was for you, you still walk out of there with something because you hear the evidence for somebody else and you see them
Right.
saying yes, 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 and then they're crying at the end, and that's my mom or my dad or my son or my daughter, and you know as a viewer that that was a real contact because the details are just so in your face. I mean, like specifics like pink and black checkerboard belt, or she played a Fender guitar or sang this song, or you thought about him this morning and you said this specific line, or you live on this street and it's called, this
Right.
avenue, and then the people are just saying yes, and then if there's a no, okay, well let's figure out what's going on here, and a lot of times people forget something or they realize it later and they come back and say, oh yeah, I understand that, I just didn't remember. um so
I
that
call
will be
that
the.
amnesia. I
Yeah.
call it spirit amnesia is that when somebody is saying something to you and you get overwhelmed and it's normal. We're in the physical world And when somebody starts telling me that my loved one's here, there's a part of me that says, is this real? And you guys, I do this. And sometimes I'll be questioning, like, do they already know this about me? How are they getting this? But what's happening, what Robert's saying here is that when a medium is receiving the details, the evidence, it's that soul to soul contact. And when the medium connects and blends with the soul of the recipient on the other side, your loved one, they then bring them alive. And as they are brought alive, you, the recipient, the loved one, says, oh my gosh, this could be my dad, my husband, my son. And you start to feel there is an emotional tug of the souls blending. And I have to, the majority of us cry because it's so overwhelming and beautiful. It's not harmful. It's not hurtful. None of the mediums are being harmed in any of this. And when you receive a message, it will always be filled with love. It will not be harmful. No one's going to tell you if you do this, you're going to die, or if you don't do this, this is going to happen to you. And if that happens, I kind of question a little bit of the message that you're receiving. But Phil and Carrie's work always will go to the base of the soul, of the heart, and the connection. It's beautiful to watch, you guys. It's beautiful. It's so healing.
Phil, he gave me, well, I got a reading from him before we knew each other. And that was after the first experience in Orlando in 2019. So I got home and I booked a reading with him on Zoom. And he didn't know me yet. I mean, now he can't do a reading for me because he knows too much about me. But back then he didn't know. So I took advantage of that time and said, I'm going to get a reading with him before he gets to know me. And it was incredible. It was a half an hour, and there was so much evidence that they told him where I was 2 weeks earlier, and in a specific place with description of the place and what it looked like, and why I was there. And this was, nobody else knew that. Nobody knew. It wasn't something that you can look up on Google or Facebook. So that's what you get from a reading like that. I mean, you'll get these details that only you will know. And it's just such a incredible experience.
All mediums, we are not always going to be 100%. We're not always going to give you exactly what you think you need, but you're going to receive exactly what the spirit world knows is going to be best for you. But also, not all mediums are all knowing. We don't know 100% the evidence that we're receiving. And if we try to interpret it or make it about us, like, oh, I'm seeing a pair of cowboy boots, so they must be a cowboy. No, I can't add on to that. And I know that Phil and Carrie don't layer onto like, oh, I know I'm dealing with a cowboy. They have to just present the evidence. And when that happens, that is when literally you start to melt and you start to feel and sense that your loved one is really, truly still alive, and that they're here to touch your soul to say, please don't worry, don't fret. It's time for you to live your life again. And both Phil and Carrie, their teachings, the way that they educate and the way that they keep their students, I would say, task forward is brilliant. I don't really know any other teachers in this world that teach that way.
This will be in my movie, but some of the ways that they teach you, I never knew that they would do that kind of way of teaching a group of people. And I don't want to give too much away and spoil the movie, but they're so good at teaching that just me being behind the camera, listening to them, I've learned so much. And I remember we were in Troy, Ohio, and I was filming a group breakout. So they had two people that were part of the class face each other and read each other, take turns. It's like 10 minutes each. And Phil and Carrie walk around the room and they listen in and they connect as well. And then they coach the students as they're doing this. But I remember I was filming, and there's the two people in front of me that were doing the readings for each other. One lady she wasn't getting the connection, and she kept getting no's, and then she was frustrated and was really letting her analytical mind get in the way. And I'm sitting there behind the camera, and it was getting towards like lunchtime. I was kind of tired and I kind of just drifted off and was daydreaming, right? And this picture came to my head of a man with a beard holding up a fish with a beer and his buddies. Like it was a photo of a fishing trip. And um, the lady never got her message, but I spent all day with that image in my head and I was afraid to say anything about it. But I went up to that woman and I said, "Your dad sport fisherman?" And she's like, "Yes." Like I saw the
Wow.
picture of him holding up the fish and with his buddies and he had a beard and she's like, "Yes, yes, yes." So I was getting the information and I was just not even, but that was because I kind of let myself go into that daydream. So once you get your mind out of the equation, it really, kicks in.
Yeah.
Um, and it happened twice to me on that shoot. Happened with another person too. And um, I get the chills. My arm hairs are standing up just thinking about it. It's so
Oh.
exciting.
So Phil and Carrie, they will be in the United States. Gosh, it's going to be in December, isn't that correct? In New Jersey. And do they still have tickets for anybody that's interested in participating?
I'm not sure about the tickets if they're, I think it's still on their site. So they have a website called mymediumship.com. And then there's a live events tab. And I'm looking at it now and it says, it looks like you could still register for it. So it's in Saddle River, New Jersey,
Saddle
and
River, New Jersey.
at the Residence Inn by Marriott. And all this information is on mymediumship.com. And that's November 30th through December 4th. And that's a 5 day, course. So that's where you would go to learn mediumship, or if you're already a medium, to really get advanced training from Phil
An
and Carrie.
intensive. That's what we
Yeah.
call those intensive, that you're going to go there and your life will be changed.
And you're going to
And
work.
you are. It's
'Cause
going to be, it's when it's done, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're emotional, but you could not feel better.
Well, they always have a dinner afterwards, or everybody gets together and goes out, and then they tell their stories, and you make new friends and forever friends. I mean, the people I met on these shoots, we talk all the time through Facebook or emails, but I made so many new friends just from being behind the scenes. And I'm not part of the class, but I'm that guy with the camera in the back of the room. But then I go to dinner with them and we hang out and hear everybody's stories, and they're all like really special moments.
Yeah, it's like building your own, a community. It's like really establishing your spiritual family. And so many of us, we need that. We want that. We crave that because we feel so different in our everyday life. And so when we can step into that place that we feel comfortable and safe, it's phenomenal. And I know that Carrie and Phil offer that. Now, in the new year, aren't they traveling, not in the United States, but they're going down under?
Yep, they're going to be in Australia and New
Australia.
Zealand
Oh my goodness.
for a few weeks. So definitely for Australian friends, take a look at their or keep in touch. Actually, it is on their website, the Sydney Mediumship Retreat, the Melbourne Mediumship Experience, Auckland. So they
Wow.
got three big events over there that will definitely be worth checking out if you're in that part of the world.
Wonderful. Well, I would recommend sitting in the audience with them or being a student with them. They are both a phenomenal pair. I also have had the opportunity to have readings from both Phil and Carrie, and both of them brought out information that I know that neither of them knew about me nor knew about my loved ones, or so I knew they were speaking directly to them. Also, I want to just kind of end it with this: is Phil and Carrie have got a phenomenal sense of humor. So the more that you get to be around them and understand, them, is like we as mediums, we have to laugh at ourselves, but we have to incorporate that humor from the spirit world, and you will find that from both Phil and Carrie.